buddy.
Hey, buddy, how are you?
Oh, I'm doing all right. How about yourself?
Well, I've got unemployment now, so I'm doing pretty good.
Oh, you got it,
Confirmed,
huh?
paid.
Oh,
Oh yeah,
in the bank account?
oh yeah.
Oh,
This,
shnikes.
yeah, I really think that we need to be taking this coronavirus more seriously. There's a lot of people out there playing fast and loose. Like until this thing's gone, we really need to stay in our homes,
Yeah. Not only,
unless it becomes July 26th, because July
well,
26th is when that federal benefit runs out. So at July 26th, we need to reopen this bitch
uh,
up. Until then, I'm
July,
telling you, man.
it is July 31st, and that is if they don't vote to extend it until January 31st. Yeah, and if that's the case, then I say not only do we need a vaccine, we need to make sure that that vaccine is vetted, that it's actually working, that it is helping to reduce spread of the coronavirus, and and then we check our flu numbers and see how those are doing. Because if those are too high,
I mean, and we got to look too. I'm sure vehicle deaths must be down. I mean, there's a lot going on.
yeah, reopening the economy could open up vehicle deaths. Those could start rising. We need to shut it back down
Let's
for
not talk about pollution.
yeah.
Pollution, global warming.
Have you seen India now? Now that everything's locked down, you can see the sky again above that big archway.
Same in California. Los Angeles is actually, believe it or not, a pretty looking town.
I don't believe
So
it.
we got to keep it all together, man. I'm on a serious note though. I don't know why I would ever go back to work. You know what I mean?
With that level of unemployment?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. Lindsey Graham was right when he was telling them, hey, this is going to incentivize people not to work. And so, yeah, it is. Shut up.
Yeah, it's not taxable by the state. It's only taxable by the feds at only at 10%.
Yeah.
It's nice.
Yeah, it's the biggest tax break on income that I've had.
Here's how perverse the incentives are. Do you know what the sensible thing to do right now would be?
Uh,
In this specific scenario, the sensible thing to do is go get a credit card, max it out,
pay it off.
because the $5,000 you spend today will still be worth the $5,000 of stuff you got. But when they
Oh,
start
yeah.
passing $2,000 a month and money becomes basically worthless, that number on your credit card bill is still locked in at $5,000.
Just need to write something down real quick.
Yeah, I mean it's wild. I got our wedding coming up, and I'm just knocking out suits and all sorts of stuff, paying off the Mrs. Tax bill. Don't love that part, but I figure since it was tax money anyways, hey, it's
Yeah,
just kind of like putting it back on the shelf.
yeah. Get some silver. Silver will be worth more than gold after the apocalypse. You can use it
Right.
in a lot more industrial applications.
Microchips.
Microchips. They use gold in microchips, but silver you use for like soldering stuff and use it for all kinds of different stuff. But gold does have specialty uses, but silver is more utilitarian.
Well, there you go. That's a metallurgy update.
Yeah.
So we're on routine checkup. It's not Mother's Day anymore. I hope everyone's mother is fine. We've got our usual crew of guests coming in. We don't have Brian Williams tonight. That is confirmed. We've got 3 questions. In the very first time, if you watched last week, you know that I cracked Clay up with my long-winded questions. So this week, I took the alternate approach, and 2 questions are actually the same part of 1 question.
Well, we're gonna see how it
Uh,
goes. We have our first person.
Okay, great. Then let's bring them in, and then we'll introduce the questions in that segment.
All right.
All right, hey bud, how are you?
Doing pretty well. How are y'all doing?
I'm doing good. How's the lockdown going for you?
Basically, no major changes, I guess.
That's the
More,
point of a lockdown.
yeah.
Everyone, your family's good. You had an exam last week. That's why you couldn't join us.
Yeah, well, we've had finals all throughout the week until yesterday was our last final. So now I'm pretty much done. Well, done completely with the year. I'm just moving to the summer and the work that entails. So
Congratulations.
thank you.
Yeah. Do you want to
Appreciate it.
jump into tonight's questions?
Sure. Yeah.
Cool. All right. So, as you may know, Congress is debating another relief package. They're calling it not Relief Package 4, but Relief Package 3B, which is a sort of Avengers Endgame scenario.
Hmm.
But they've come to loggerheads over two key issues. Republicans would like to see liability protections put in place for business owners. Essentially, they want to make it so that once businesses reopen, every shuckster in the country can't just start suing every business that anyone went to who got sick and saying that they caused them to be sick. Democrats oppose that.
Right.
What are your thoughts on this? Do you think it's a necessary condition for reopening the economy?
I think there's a balance that can happen there. I mean, I think that there are if a business is not taking the proper measures to protect its employees, then they are exposing themselves to liability, and that basically is sorry, my food delivery just arrived. And that basically holds for any circumstance, right? Like if I am basically um, putting together, let's say, some sort of hardwood type business, and I don't protect my workers, and they lose a finger or a hand, those kind of things. So like if I didn't do what I was supposed to do as an employer, then I am liable. And
Mm.
I think, of course, like employees, they do sign, like certain waivers that waive certain liabilities in certain industries. 1 second. All right. Sorry.
That's all right.
But yeah, so basically, at the same time, is that like when you are an employee, you're not signing up for this particular kind of liability. And so I
My
think there is.
understanding is that what they're talking about is on the consumer side. So I can't go to Target and Walmart and then over to Kroger, and then I end up getting coronavirus a week later and suing all three of them to say I got it there because you didn't enforce social distancing rules, etc.
Oh, well, yeah, I'm not too necessarily keen on suing Walmart because I made a choice to go to Walmart, and in that I'm assuming risks. I think that there are risks that we assume we go anywhere, right? Like if I got in a car
Mm.
accident on the way to Walmart, am I going to sue them for that? Like I think that there's a tension there. I mean, I think it is definitely still incumbent upon companies to have sound policies in place, but realistically, can Walmart or Target have a person policing every single human being in their place to make sure they're keeping a certain distance? I think there are measures they can take, absolutely, and those that don't take those measures should be fined. But I think that it is important to kind of really figure out where the liability stands there. So I haven't looked as much into this issue, to be honest, and so I don't want to kind of jump on one side or the other. But it's my understanding of it right now is that I think people you assume risk whenever you leave your home. You assume risk when you
Mm.
leave the door, and I think that if a company is not actively exposing you to risk, then I think that they should have some sort of protections in place for that.
Okay. On the other side of this argument, the Democrats, they're arguing in this new bill that they'd like to spend more federal funds to fill in the holes that have been left in states' budgets due to the slowdown. Republicans oppose that. So, what are your thoughts? Does creating a larger hole in the federal deficit to shore up state budgets, is that a good idea?
Yeah, I think it's fine. I mean, I think that the government spends anyway, and if you're going to risk having your states go bankrupt, like that's going to impact a number of other things, pensions, etc., where people are going to be less inclined to spend, less inclined to save, in particular. And in economics, basically, like a nation's savings rate more or less determines how much growth actually happens in that country. And so, if we do away with that, and we disincentivize saving, whether do that or let's say, for example, even like negative rates, then I think that that's we're going to see some major downstream impacts on that. So yeah, I think it's important to use federal funds to support states that need it.
What about the argument that you'll hear some people make where they say that a lot of states were running these big deficits, especially on their pension programs before the coronavirus happened, and now it's sort of an opportunistic thing to jump in and say like, hey, because of coronavirus, we need you to bail out this bigger existing problem we already had.
I mean, again, I think it's fine. I think the federal government in many is there to support the states. And I mean, and in doing that doesn't mean that we bail them out all the time, but at the same time, it's like, hey, we're here to help you out. Here are some problems that we have identified. Like let's begin taking steps towards fixing these things, being more responsible about these types of things too. But at the end of the day, I mean, the federal government exists as a support system for the states. And because by virtue of that, it's not the states that are being punished, it's the people at the end of that decision that are being punished if you don't come in and help them. So I think with that in mind, it's important for that to happen.
Okay. Our last question this week. LA County has announced that they're reopening their beaches, actually today, but they've got some caveats in there. The beaches are open for, quote, oceanic activities and exercise only, and masks must be worn unless you're in the water. But specifically prohibited activities are gathering, sitting, and sunbathing, which in my mind makes it pretty unclear how you're supposed to dry off after getting out of the water. With that said, what are some of these stranger lockdown rules or stories you've heard about since this whole thing began?
I mean, I don't know. I feel like that might be one of the stranger ones. Like again, I have been really treating my diet of COVID-19 news only if it's absolutely necessary or a major development. I try to spend not too much time looking into it. I mean, that's probably one of the stranger ones because there's an extreme blurry line with that, and I think it's like you go all or nothing basically with it. I think when you start giving an inch, you're sending the signal that you might not be as certain on this policy, and which is fine. But again, so it also risks undermining the policy in the first place, especially in the eyes of the public who are basically saying, "Hey, you're asking us to do this thing, but you're not very clear on like what the actual parameters are."
Yeah,
and I can see Virginia too. Like Virginia is very much like hey, strong encouragement, stay at home, but we're not going to really enforce it. And these places are open, but these places are closed. And so I think there's the muddying of the waters there makes it a bit difficult for people to know exactly what is expected of them in these circumstances.
Oh, there's no muddy waters. If it's under the Elon Musk umbrella, it's essential. We've all understand this.
That is true. He went ahead with his plans, didn't he?
Yeah.
All right. Aside from the Elon Musk story, is there a story or something floating around this week that you think got enough attention?
I think we're going to start seeing more of it, but I would say basically the future of education with what's happening now. I mean, we're seeing that kids actually are having certain impacts from this virus. Maybe they're not dying, but there might be some significant long-lasting impacts on heart, kidney function, neurological functions, those kind of things too. And so looking at if we're going to reopen our schools, then that's one conversation. But if we don't, then what does that mean? What does education actually look like? What does it mean to learn something? What's the value of that learning? If we have to radically rethink how we do it on the fly, basically. But I think there's also opportunity there too. I mean, like there are a lot of people who have been thinking about these issues for generations. And so this might be a time for us to really kind of have some meaningful reforms, at least in our public education sphere. So yeah, I think that's a story that hasn't really been pumped up to the nth degree, but I think we'll get there, especially as the fall rolls around.
Absolutely. Agreed. All right. Well, Trey, thank you for joining us.
Of course.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah, enjoy your food.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, have a good one, bud.
You too.
I hadn't heard that. You heard any of that about the kids?
Yeah. Well, I think I mentioned it that there was like some weird new disease that might be related to COVID that was going on with kids, but it was like at the level where I was just like, there's too many new different stories about it. Here's another new thing that could be a spin-off of the old favorite.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I think you go day to day, you could find a story confirming that the kids aren't getting it, and then another thing saying they are getting it. It's too much, man.
Yeah.
All right.
I know
we have our next guest?
Yeah, it's gonna be Hannah, right? Hello.
Evening, guys. How are you?
Oh, hey, Hannah. We're good. How are you?
Doing great.
Hannah, joining us from Dallas, Texas, as always. You having a good week?
Yeah, not too bad.
Did you call your mother?
I did call my mother.
Okay, good. That's important. We're doing a mother follow-up with everybody.
Nice. I like the accountability.
Let's jump right into it. I'm sure you've been watching the debate over another stimulus package going out. Um, the big things that everyone seems to be arguing about are bailouts for the states and then liability protections for businesses. Republicans are in favor of the liability protection. From my understanding, they want to pass rules to make sure that if I end up getting coronavirus, I can't sue Target, Walmart, and Kroger because I shopped there earlier in the week. Democrats are not for that idea. What are your thoughts? Do you think that it's necessary condition to reopen to provide some sort of protection for these businesses?
That's a tough question. I think it really depends on I think how critical the business actually is, whether the federal or whether a federal or state government's offering them some sort of incentive to stay open or to reopen. I think if a business is opening voluntarily, then they have a duty to do their best to protect their customers' health by following CDC cleanliness practices and all that. So if a business is not following that and placing customers at risk, then I think they should be open to liability.
What about let's say a counter argument though, that we already have a lot of frivolous lawsuits in America. So if there's an invisible thing that you can just sort of catch and there's no way to really prove you got it there or not, the argument would be that I could sue all three in the hopes that one of them just gives me 20 grand to go away.
Sure. I think the difficulty would be proving a business is liable for a person contracting coronavirus.
Yeah, contact tracing, right? That's the buzzword.
Yeah.
All right. So on the other end of it, Democrats, they're arguing that it's on the federal government that they should put some bailout funds in there for states who have these big holes in their budget due to the economic shutdown. Republicans oppose that. Again, your thoughts? Is it right to put a larger hole in the federal deficit to shore up state budgets?
Well, it's interesting that you mentioned that. Every year, there's an organization in DC that puts out a report on state fiscal health. So they examine states as an accountant would an organization, and they evaluate the size of states' rainy day funds, whether they're able to meet their financial requirements, largely in the area of pensions. And a lot of states haven't had balanced budgets and haven't been able to meet some of their basic financial obligations for quite some time now. So I think the coronavirus thing is kind of exposing some financial mismanagement on the part of state governments, and I don't think that they should be getting a bailout.
What about a counter argument that if you don't bail them out, then it's not really like the governors who are going to suffer. It's going to be the people who can no longer get the services that the state's providing.
That would be an issue that constituents need to take up with their state governments.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Finally, LA County has announced that they're going to reopen their beaches. They actually did that today, but they have some caveats. Beaches are only open for ocean activities and exercise. You must wear a mask unless you're in the water. And specifically prohibited is gathering, sitting, sunbathing. So it is unclear how you're supposed to dry off after getting out of the water. With all that said, what are some of these stranger lockdown rules or stories that you've heard about? It doesn't have to necessarily be a government thing. It could be store policies.
Yeah. Right now in Dallas County, we're still supposed to be wearing masks when we go and get our hair cut at a barber shop or a salon. And I actually just went to the salon today because I was desperately in need of trim. So let me tell you, it's pretty freaking hard to keep a mask on when you're getting your hair cut.
Maybe as a woman. I'm trying to think about it as a dude. I think the little rubber bands right here. Oh no, because I had to get a beard trim.
Okay. Guess you might be able to might hold it on or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like I'm gonna have a mask-shaped beard for a while after this.
Yeah, just some little trim path along the side.
Yeah. How was it going out? Aside from having to wear the mask, did everyone there seem happy to be working?
No. They were not happy to be there.
No, I'm sure. I'm sure they'd rather get that unemployment check.
Yeah, these poor ladies, they were like running around just having to sanitize everything in the store. I mean, I felt safe as the customer
Mhm.
watching the sanitation practices in action, but they were not happy and they were not having a good time.
I bet. Is there a what story or idea that you don't think's got getting enough attention this week?
Um, from what I've been hearing, there's been spiking cases in states where they have started reopening, and that's definitely something that we need to be keeping a close eye on as we ease into reopening state governments and all these businesses and stuff like that. You know, if we open up too quickly, caseload continues to rise. We're right back where we started.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. There's a lot of states reopening. New York just announced the reopening.
Wow.
I know.
That's surprising.
New York announced the reopening, and then my county announced that they're definitely not reopening, and the governor's actually threatening everybody.
Oh,
And
wow.
one of the reasons we're justifying it is like, do you know how close we are to New York? We have to keep closed. Which I guess is true. Dirty New York's reopening. They'll send all their people our way.
We'll see what
I
happens.
still aren't saying that. Maybe y'all can just build a wall between Pennsylvania and New York.
Yeah, so that's what the river's there for. I think we just blow the bridges to Jersey. All right, Hannah. Well, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, see you again later this week. Have a good one.
Take care, you too.
Bye. All right, joining us now is Ryan. Ryan, how you doing?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm doing good. Life's good up there?
Yeah, pretty decent.
Good. Are you what's that?
It's quiet. It's nice.
Yeah, that's the nice part about northern Pennsylvania, right?
Yeah, that and the ticks. All you can eat.
Yum. They're like M&Ms, but full of blood.
Yeah, you gotta wait till
Yes.
they fill up or get ripe.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's what Timon and Puma were talking about, right? Plump yet satisfying.
Mm-hmm.
You want to jump right into the questions, bud?
Sure.
I have a feeling you have some thoughts on these questions this week.
Possibly. Yeah, I'm a little tired. I had to rush home from work, but yeah, so I'll try. I'm good.
All right.
Don't worry, everyone seemed to be tired this show, so we're all good.
We're tired. It
Yeah.
is night. Can't you tell from Ryan's window?
That's true. Yeah.
All right, so Congress is debating another bailout package, another stimulus package,
Mm-hmm.
but they're coming to loggerheads over two issues. Republicans want to add liability protections for businesses that are reopening. Essentially, they want to make it so you can't sue a business claiming they're responsible for you catching coronavirus.
Mhm.
Democrats oppose this. I want to know what your thoughts are, if you think it's a necessary condition for reopening.
I think that it's in terms of a business being liable if an employee gets sick in their workplace, unless the business is going out of their way to create an unsafe condition, it's a little bit tricky because, at least currently, an employee is, one could argue that they're more likely to catch coronavirus as opposed to the cold or a flu or something similar, but not so much more. You're just as likely, people get sick all the time from all different kinds of things. I work in a place with toxic chemicals. That's a lot more dangerous. There's a lot of unsafe work conditions that are much more unsafe than potentially getting coronavirus. And even then, most people that are working are going to be well outside of the range of potential complication from coronavirus. I don't see how it's reasonable to demand protection. That just seems like it's waiting for people to get sick. And on top of that, too, we live in a free country. People have the right to choose to not go to work if they don't want to go to work. And I don't think anybody can argue that they didn't know that coronavirus existed, not at this point. So the argument that they didn't know that there was a hazard of going to work, or that they had to go to work against their own will, or that their work did anything, most places at least, did anything out of the realm of normal to put them at risk, I don't see how they would be liable. But having that protection can prevent against frivolous lawsuits, and I don't see how having that protection would be a harm.
Yeah, that's the argument I was making with our last guest. It's just the idea that if I get sick and I'm sort of a trickster, I'll just add up a list of every store I went to in the past week and send them the legal paperwork and hope one of them just gives me a sum of money to shut up.
Well, that's sort of the basis of copyright trolling. You
Mm.
just claim a copyright claim, and eventually enough people will pay you that it makes it worth it to just try to threaten to sue everybody. It doesn't matter that they're creating massive amounts of frivolous lawsuits because they're going to make a profit in the end. So if you can threaten to sue every business on the block, whether you've been there or not, whether you got sick or not, it doesn't matter because some of them will pay, and that'll make it worth it for some people.
Yeah, and unlike a slip and fall, it'd be impossible to look at the camera and prove someone didn't catch the coronavirus where you were.
Yeah, Zoom is not good enough to be able to see the virus.
Yeah.
Anyway, go on.
Even if you say enhance twice, it doesn't get all the way to the virus
Yeah.
level.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Just
no
pixels,
matter how many
nothing.
magic mushrooms you eat.
Well, I'm willing to do that experiment to find out if that's true.
I'm pretty sure there's no liability protection for that one, though.
No, I don't think so. Democrats, on the other hand, they're arguing that states are going to face a huge hole in their budget due to the economic shutdown the coronavirus has brought, and that the federal government should step in and try and fill their coffers, at least get them to even. Republicans are against that. Idea here being that a lot of these places had issues already, right? So
Yeah.
again, what are your thoughts? Do you think it's a good idea to make a larger hole in the federal deficit to try and shore up state budgets?
We already do to an extent, but I don't think that's justified. The issue is the response to the virus has not been the same. Some states have gone out of their way to create much more debilitating setbacks that have caused more harm to their economies, that have caused more problems for their citizenry, and that's been a tremendous cost to them. They shouldn't be paid evenly for uneven things that they did. It doesn't make sense to give that sort of a response. If the Fed wanted to offer, or the federal government wanted to offer some sort of a blanket cost where they was doled out by population, but even then it doesn't really, basically the states are so different that that's not something that should be done. I don't like intermingling the finances of the multiple levels of government. I understand that it is intermingled heavily, but I'm not a fan of that either. Really, because the states did different things and there were different consequences for their actions, you can't treat them necessarily equally. They weren't equal.
Okay. LA County has announced that they were reopening their beaches. They did that today, but they put some rules in. You can only go for ocean activity and exercises, and you absolutely cannot go for sunbathing, sitting, or gathering. You also have to wear a mask unless you're in the water. So if you can't gather, sit, or sunbathe, it's unclear what you are allowed to do as soon as you get out of the water, unless you start jogging in the sand. So that's kind of strange. People are confused about how that's supposed to be enforced. Are there any other strange lockdown rules that you've heard about? Either it doesn't have to be the government; it can also be stores, businesses, workplaces.
Well, there are multiple countries in South America and cities in South America that are doing gender-based allowances
Panama.
for who can go out. Yeah, Panama is one. Peru is another. I think Chile started. Well, anyway, there's multiple places that, like Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, men can go out. Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays, women can go out, and Sundays, no one can go out. Like it's a bit strange, but that's one way of doing it, I guess. That's that in some places where if you have multiple properties, you're not allowed to go to the other property, even if there's no one there. If you
That's
have
Michigan.
2 houses in one state, yeah, there's so many arbitrary things. Like you can go to the store, but you can't buy paint.
Right. And no seeds.
Yeah.
But they did change that. They said if it's a specialty seed store, then you can go there. If they get a waiver.
What?
Yeah, so you couldn't go to Lowe's to get the seeds, but if there was like a special nursery store, like a Strange's Nursery, then you could get seeds there because that's the business.
Yeah, and if you wanted to buy a throw rug for like a bathroom or something, that's fine. But if you want to buy carpet samples, no good. That doesn't make sense.
You gotta buy a lot of throw rugs and glue them down.
Yeah. I don't think you can buy the glue. It's too close to the paint.
Oh, that's true.
Unless there's a glue specialty store.
That's true, and they get a waiver, and they get a special
And
waiver.
yeah, they gotta get that waiver too.
Well, I think there's a
Yeah.
lot of hooves being thrown into the ground lately, so maybe you could make your own.
It's
A
true.
lot of silliness.
All right. Well, aside from all that, any story idea this week that you don't think's getting enough attention?
I haven't really noticed anything for the most part beyond what I think other people are seeing. Just world's going crazy. They're starting to talk about different stuff, or at least half the people are, and the other half are yelling that the other people aren't talking about the first thing anymore, as if it matters. But we'll see.
Yeah, we will.
Everything seems pretty fine. There's differing dates of when, where, and what is going to open. Like there's signs posted saying we're in lockdown till June 4th, and there are others saying that it's before that. Some is saying after that. I have no idea what's going on. I'm just living my day to day anyway. I don't care. I'm not doing anything anyway. So, but
Yeah, Pennsylvania is by county the reopening, and like Lebanon and Beaver County have both told the governor, actually, we're opening. To hell with you. And
well, the zip code I work in, there have been 0 cases of individuals that lived lived in the county. Lived in
okay,
that
so
area.
0 cases of people who live. That's actually pretty alarming.
Yes, there have been 0 cases that have been confirmed. 0 tested. 0 people that lived in that zip code have tested positive. And in the zip code I live in, there have been 2 in the entire time.
Right.
There have been very few in the entire county. There's 55,000 people in the county, and there have been about 350 or so people infected. We're averaging somewhere in the neighborhood of, at the peak, about 12 a week. Like it's not that bad. Not here, at least.
Yeah. Our county, I'm in Bucks County. The hardcore, we're pretty blue in the terms of the leadership of the county. The most hardcore thing that we've done is our county attorney was like told the state police or the police officers, you let the state handle enforcing the lockdown. We don't need to waste our time doing that. And then because of where I am, they added the caveat, unless you want to, which is that's the leadership you can rely on. But they're really arguing with the governor. They want them to stop counting nursing home deaths because once you over 80+% of the county deaths are in nursing homes. Like if you take that out, we could go back to work. So,
oh man,
yeah, I don't know of any other states that are doing it county by county. So, if we're wrong, let us know.
But yeah, there's been a lot of issues about Pennsylvania and arbitrary problems. There'll be lawsuits, I'm sure. We'll see.
We'll see. All right, bud. Well, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
See you again later this week.
Yep.
All right,
Bye.
take care. Bye.
All right, here comes Paisley. Hello.
All right, joining us now is Paisley down in North Carolina. How are you, Paisley?
Good. How are you guys?
Doing good. It's good to see you.
Good.
How was your Mother's Day?
It was good. I actually went to Virginia Beach.
You traveled?
I traveled.
You broke quarantine.
I broke quarantine, and I was in a place that really didn't have great Wi-Fi. So that was
plausible deniability.
Yeah.
I couldn't get on. I didn't even know there was a virus. What are you talking about?
No, I saw the emails. I just couldn't connect, and by the time it actually happened, I was like wrapped up. This is gonna sound really sad, but I am trying to pack up my childhood bedroom. It's kind of stayed that way for like 10 years, and so I'm now trying to get rid of it and keep things and all that stuff.
I would be terrified if my childhood bedroom was still there with all the stuff in it. If someone would go back and find like the things I was into as a teenager and then ask me about them.
Yeah, it's definitely like a little nostalgic and a little sad that it still kind of was in the same condition it was like when I graduated.
Yeah. Well, that sounds fun.
Yeah, but overall, I think I'm doing pretty good. My work is going to do a slow social distancing work as North Carolina has already begun phases for, social get-togethers.
Mm-hmm.
Next week, half of our staff is going in, and then the following week, the other staff is going in, and then if everything goes according to plan, June 1st, everyone in my office is going to be back in like normal routine. Now, granted, my office size is about 30 people, give or
Mhm.
take. So that's kind of interesting as we've been working from home since, the mid February or early March.
Yeah, it's an interesting way of doing it.
Yes.
You want to jump into today's questions?
Let's go.
All right. Congress is debating a new stimulus package for the country. They're coming to loggerheads on two things. Republicans want to include liability protections for businesses. Basically, they want to make it so if you get coronavirus, you can't turn around and sue Target and Walmart and Kroger and all the other stores you might have been to that week, saying that you got coronavirus from them. Democrats are opposed to that. What are your thoughts, and do you think that this is a necessary step for businesses to reopen?
Um, as I have connections to small businesses, I definitely understand where I guess people are coming from, where they're like, well, I went into this store and I got coronavirus, but I think that really. I don't think you can really put blame into them for that. I mean, it's just like saying you're driving a car and you get into an accident and you're suing your automaker. Like it was your decision
Mhm.
to get into the car. Or same with like choosing to wear a seatbelt or not wearing a seatbelt, or even just like big picture of like owning a home or renting a home. If you're saying like, well, my water, my pipes burst from everyday use, I need to sue my pipe company. Like,
Mhm.
I think life has social liabilities as is, and I think this is an over like cautious way of doing it. I definitely understand where people are coming from as far as like tracking, like you want to figure out who maybe provided it, but placing it on a corporation is, I think, a little bit too much on turning a corporation into a person. Even though I know that our laws have definitely been trying to make that more of a reality.
Yeah, you sort of hit everything I was going to try and throw back at you. But so good.
Oh, that's
So,
I'm getting better.
Democrats on the other side, they're arguing that the states are going to have big budget shortfalls because of the reduced economic activity, and they think that the federal government should give the states a bailout to get them at least back to zero. Republicans are opposed to that. They think that a lot of states had issues before coronavirus, and now that people are trying to get funds to fix those problems that already existed. Do you think it's a good idea to create a larger hole in the federal budget in order to shore up the state budgets, or just what are your thoughts generally?
So I know that there's some leaders in the Senate who are really against like state retirements, and that's kind of where this fight is going. And I think that that's a real shame. That's kind of the thing of like all these people with retirement, they don't need it anymore. That's going to fix your problems. And I think I do believe that the federal government should try to help keep the state's budget balanced. Yes, it'll make us in a big picture more in debt, but I'd much rather pay our teachers, our, state employees, because a lot of them are essential businesses and are trying to keep us, safely at bay, or providing, a day-to-day job that needs to happen.
Mm. What about the argument that some states, if you're a state employee in this state, the benefits are crazy. I mean, a lot of states, police officers can serve 20 years, retire with their full pension, and then get another job, um, usually within the government as well, and end up retiring with two pensions
Right.
by the time they're in their 60s, and then they live for another 25 years, and they have to be paid that forever. So the states that have that, they were the ones with the biggest unfunded liabilities on their pension side, versus states that don't provide that, and then you'd be taking from taxpayers in every state to pay for that first state's retired civil servants.
Right. And I get that argument, and I'm sure that there's more ways that the states can really try to figure out better ways. But at the end of the day, a majority of those people who became civil servants knew what they were doing and why they chose to go into it. Like a police officer is putting their life on the line to keep you safe. And to have them lose some of the reasons why they chose to be a police officer, being kind of short sighted or cut short is kind of a disappointment. Like big picture wise, it's like pretty much like saying you need to work, 20 years and you'll get a nice big whatever pay, and then surprise, you're not getting anything. It can be, I think, a little disheartening and more frustrating when you think that, you've been told one thing and then get short-sighted on the other.
Okay. Final question for the night.
Yeah.
LA County has announced that they're reopening their beaches, that they opened them today.
Mhm.
They opened them strictly for ocean activity and exercise, and
Mhm.
they prohibited gathering, sitting, and sunbathing,
Mhm.
making it a mystery how one would go swim and then dry before getting in their car.
Right.
So that's a bit odd. Uh,
Mhm.
what are some of the stranger rules that you heard about during the lockdown? Either it doesn't have to necessarily be with your government; it could be local policies, stores.
Right. So I have kind of a couple, and I have one thing about the beaches. The rules are pretty much kind of the same in Virginia Beach, where it's like
Mhm.
you have to be active. You can't sunbathe in Virginia Beach. I know that some of North Carolina's beaches have opened up, but I don't know like what what their regulations are. But I do have friends who have beach houses there and have decided to work from home there, and I'm kind of like, of course you did. I'm jealous.
Yeah, I would too.
But some stranger things that I've noticed, before we open phase 1, our parks and recs have been closed, but like our parks are open to walk. You just cannot go to like the playgrounds. And so they like caution taped zip tied swings. So it looked
Hmm.
very like ominous and kind of like, okay, there's no kids. This looks kind of like a crime scene,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah, looks like somebody lost a
pretty
kid.
yeah, or you lost a kid. It was very interesting. Like the swings were all like wrapped up like a million times, like you used to do when you were in high school to be like no
Hmm.
swings. But they did that for the safety, which I thought was really interesting, like visually. But I do appreciate it because I went to like the parks in Virginia Beach this weekend to social distance, and it just looked like it had been unkept for weeks.
Hmm.
Like the grass was like really really tall and like all kind of messy. So I was like, I feel a little bit safer knowing that like our parks department tried to, keep distance and try to take care of that. And then another thing, when I went to pick up food from takeout, they like had this very long list of demands for you to come into the building. And then they were like only one pump of hand sanitizer per transaction. So like if I went to pick up food, they would like watch you as you pump the hand sanitizer, because they didn't want you to take like 7 or 8 pumps. But
Hmm.
I thought it was very like interesting because you would just expect like human like responsibility, social contract, that you wouldn't take 7 or 8 pumps to get
Yeah.
your stuff, but they had to put like a sign on
Mm,
the door that said only one. So
Yeah.
that
To me, the weird part is the sign.
yeah.
yeah. So
Yeah. Around here, you're just not allowed to touch anyone's hand sanitizer.
yeah. So and then I actually had to go my parents' business because they're still open, and I went and visited them. They were kind of low on hand sanitizer, so we went to the store and they had like a limit to 2 people. So I had to go, and I actually like changed outfits and went back to that exact same store and got 2 more, just
Nice.
because one, I don't live there, so I can't really be like, oh, you don't know me. So it worked
Hmm.
out, but hand sanitizer is just as bad as toilet paper nowadays, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. I haven't seen any in weeks. I haven't seen any toilet paper on the shelf at the grocery store for weeks either.
Yeah. So,
Is there one story or idea that you didn't think got enough attention this week?
I just really want to kind of do like a shout out, even though I don't know a ton of people. I feel like high school and college graduates are definitely in like a moment where like they're supposed to be celebrating and are unfortunately not getting that. So I just want to say that I know you exist, and I'm sorry you can't have that prom, that graduation. I hope that you can find some kind of solution to get that celebration. And once this is over, I'm sure that everyone is gonna want to celebrate you guys too. So yeah.
Yeah, I actually was thinking about that the other day. It's that's going to be a weird generation. It's going to be like 1 year, hopefully, of people who, for the rest of their lives, if you think about it, so many movies and TV shows and stuff, commercials talk about how that special day, that great feeling of accomplishment, that moment where everything you did in your life culminated, and they called your name and you walked across. It's going to be a very bitter generation of people who are like, no, I don't know that.
Yeah.
My older brother knows that. My little sister knows that. My parents know that. Everyone knows that. I don't know that.
Yeah. I feel bad. I mean, my college graduation had a fire alarm go off as they were going down the line, and like they had to rush a lot of us down because they knew it wasn't real, and they were just like, come on, hurry up. And so that made my college graduation a little interesting. But to not get that like quintessential prom by, reality, like you always have that choice, but
Mhm.
to ultimately have everyone not being able to celebrate that is really just like kind of disheartening, because it is such an American culture experience that you either talk about being super corny, or just being like, oh yeah, you dance to this one song, I dance to this one song, oh my goodness, my date bought me this ugly corsage. There's just so
Yeah.
many like relations that kind of come about those big moments. And in graduating high school and college, or even postgraduate, is such a big deal. Like, of course you want to get that walk because you worked really hard for it. So I definitely feel it for sure.
Cool. All right. Well, thank you for spending
Yeah.
time with us, Paisley. We'll see you again later this week.
Yes, and I will say, as far as media, I'm consuming Dead to Me
Oh,
season 2 is on Netflix. So
perfect.
yeah. All right.
Great. All right. Take care of yourself.
See
All right.
ya.
All right, talk to you later. Bye. There you go, bud.
All right.
Well, Gambit answers. What do you think about the liability protections?
Um, I don't know. I don't care. I've just given up on this whole society. Really, I just whatever happens happens. I've stopped having an opinion one way or the other on a lot of stuff. If it's
That's going to
about
make the rest of this segment difficult.
if it's about like people in their workplace not being able to sue the company that they work for, uh,
I don't know. Everyone went that direction, and I think I messed up when we asked Trey the first time.
but
But I
that's
think
what
after that, I made it pretty clear that it was about consumers.
yeah.
And everyone, I don't know why, everyone went back to employees.
Well, that's what it seems like because they're talking about people going back to because right now everybody's already going to Walmart and Kroger and stuff. They're already open. So if you're using that as the example, then
That's a good point. Might be my fault.
yeah.
But my understanding is what they're talking about is for places, because you've seen the stories. Some places are opening, saying that places can open up, and a lot of people saying no thanks. And I guess they have some information saying that people are small businesses aren't opening up because they're afraid of the liability.
Well, they're also probably being pressured by their employees who are like, "Hey, I'm making a lot more on unemployment. Please don't do this to us."
I mean, for sure, but I'm sure people love their employees. But if you're about to watch your business go down the sink,
Yeah.
you probably
Yeah.
open it up and just try and find new employees
Yeah. I don't know how much.
or work yourself. I mean, a lot of small businesses, you could probably just work yourself.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know how what exactly happens with that small business loan or like supposedly not a loan, the employee
Yeah, the
payment protection
PPE
plan.
or yeah.
Yeah. Uh, but I mean, if I looked at the law, I guess I could make a decision. I'm not really a fan of any laws that are just like you're not allowed to do this no matter what. So like if you have a boss that comes and intentionally coughs in your face, I mean, I guess that would be like a personal lawsuit to that
Yeah.
person, but I don't know.
Yeah,
I think that we
look,
have a lot of frivolous lawsuits, and I think that we should have a system in place where someone that is obviously wasting the time of everyone and trying to throw a wide net over a million frivolous lawsuits so that they can get some kind of reward, we should have a system in place that punishes those people.
mhm.
We don't. It just happens. That's just how we do things. So I mean, it's this is just such kind of like a back burner thing that's like I don't know. I think we have bigger problems to fix in this realm than that.
I'm really surprised that almost everybody. I disagree with almost everybody. I think it's pretty important. I can imagine. So I was trying to think about it. I don't know. Could you sue a business now saying like I got the flu at that store?
You can sue them for anything. I mean, you can try.
I know you could, but
yeah,
I think
but you just
I think
try. You just try it. Who knows?
you could be found to not have standing by a judge before it even goes to case, before you'd even have to get to the settlement phase.
Yeah.
And I think what Congress is trying to do, what the Republicans are trying to do, is just say like, look, you can't do this because remember, if you go to trial, it's a jury,
Mhm.
And we've convinced everybody in the country that this thing it's insanely contagious. If you go outdoors, you absolutely will get it from somebody, and it's definitely going to kill you. And if all you have to do is convince a jury of people from the neighborhood that your
Oh.
client is deserves $4 million, and this business could definitely afford the $4 million, it seems obvious that they go that route. And we have laws like this already for certain industries. Everyone hates on the gun industry, but there's a law, a federal law for the gun industry saying you cannot sue gun manufacturers because their gun was used to kill people.
Yeah, and the fact that that has to be a law is the problem. There should have been anybody that tried to sue that in the first place should have been punished for that lawsuit.
I mean, I agree with you, although I'm sure there's some moral hazard there I can't really articulate. But it makes sense to me if we can all kind of agree, like, yeah, look, Colt didn't make the gun specifically for you to shoot people, like
Mhm.
without reason, like in self-defense. You know what I mean? Like, that's fine that we put that in law. Just cut it out. Why make the businesses have to go through it? Because that's the other thing too. I don't think I think if you're a business like a Target or a Walmart, you have 340 million people who could sue you, and all you need is 10,000 different people to try and do it throughout the year, and that's going to be a shit ton of time and money that you got to waste in even just getting them dismissed.
Yeah, but again, they're already open.
No, I get that. I get that. So I don't know. I can kind of see you saying like, all right, it doesn't. I don't know if it's that important. What I can't see is people being like, that's absolutely important that it doesn't happen. So
Yeah.
that's where I'm at. What do you think about the state budgets better bailing out the states?
Man, I don't know enough about the budgets to have an opinion on that. I think that was it actually the federal government that said that we had to shut down certain businesses, or was that a state by state thing? Because I thought it was a state by state thing.
It's state by state.
Yeah, well then it's up to the states.
But the feds did provide the guidance, advising stuff, right?
Oh, well then yeah, pay up.
So that's what the states will say.
Yeah, then pay up.
I don't think it's right. I mean, there are states with crazy pension programs.
Oh, you don't think it's right?
No, they spend
That
a
didn't come
ton.
across at all during the show.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I look, if you want to offer your state employees or your citizens like these huge benefits, that's fine, but you got to pay for it.
Yeah.
Like it's got to come from you, and you can't just take an
Yeah.
excuse like this to try and fill it in.
Or
And
you
the
at
biggest,
least you at least have to have an itemized receipt. You know, like if you're sending an invoice, you got to know what it's for. It can't just be like a blanket kind of thing. But I guess they're saying they diverted money from these other things to put into their coronavirus efforts. Well, how much did you spend on the coronavirus efforts? Where's your receipts?
yeah, and I'm sure they'll do all sorts of creative accounting, right? It's well, we paid out more in employment and food stamps, but I mean, and it's to me, it's such a silly idea too, because the pension plans, if they plug that hole now, it'll be good for 1 year, and then next year, it's not that they don't have the money; it's that they grow larger than they can fund them. So
Yeah.
the growth is outpacing the funding.
It does seem like it would benefit more corrupt states.
Yes, and I don't know what the standard is set then. Like, here's the money, and you are not required to do anything because you're getting this. So
Yeah.
finally, the beaches. I think the beaches thing is really silly.
Yeah, I
I
saw
don't-
a sign that was like it was like stuff that you can do, stuff that you can't do. And under stuff that you can do was surfing, and under the stuff that you can't do was swimming.
Okay.
It's like I don't know how you get up on the wave.
Yeah, I wonder if we're trying to think if I really had to strain myself with the argument, would be maybe that they don't want to have a lifeguard who might have to come and get you, but then
Yeah,
the
I
surfing
guess.
is still the same thing.
Yeah, you're just not allowed to fall off the board.
Yeah, that's odd. I did look.
Uh-oh. He's frozen. Frozen in time. It's just us. Jacob's gone.
What's that?
Oh, you froze for
No, I'm-
yeah, no,
Oh.
you're back again, but you were frozen for a good little bit.
Oh, what's the last thing I said?
I said you just can't fall off your surfboard, and you said, "Well, I."
Oh, okay.
So I don't know.
Well, I did. I tried to look up wild lockdown policies. I found out that Serbia, when they first started, had a dog walking hour from 8 to 9,
Hmm.
which is odd. And then here in Pennsylvania, they've reopened massage parlors, but you must wear a mask. They didn't say anything about gloves or, I'm
Pants
pretty
or pants.
anti-lockdown. Yeah, I'm pretty anti-lockdown, but if you're going to make an argument
Yeah.
for one business, it's all indoors. The rooms for your privacy are pretty like self-contained, and then it's a person literally like rubbing not only their like hands all over you, but if you got a big knot, literally the elbow that we've been trained to cough and sneeze
Hmm.
into your back.
Yeah, you gotta work the coronavirus into the meat.
Yeah, that's a little. So I thought that was a weird one, considering how many other things. Like barbershops, no. So I'm going to Ohio this next week.
Uh-huh.
I'm going to a restaurant. I'm very excited for it. I
will,
haven't bothered looking into what restaurant because my understanding is that very few are open, but I just want to go to a restaurant.
Well, good luck.
Yeah.
I hope that
So,
you don't get
watch in 2 weeks when I'm hacking up a storm.
yeah, when you have a stroke from blood clots in your brain.
Yeah. Oh, hey, at least I'll have gone to a restaurant and I'll know it was all worth it.
As long as that's worth it for you. What's
All right,
one
bud.
story or idea that you don't think is getting enough attention?
Did not expect to be hit with this.
Yeah. Oh, you don't have one? I just heard about apparently there was a time when Joe Rogan and John McAfee were at a party together, and John McAfee was going to sleep with twin dwarves, and Joe Rogan stole them away from him.
Is that a real story?
According to John McAfee, it is.
Oh. I like John McAfee, but I don't know if I trust John McAfee.
Yeah,
I
he's
just
kind
like
of out
him.
of his mind. Yeah.
Yeah, he is.
He's entertaining.
Yeah, I can't think of anything. I saw like the famous exchange between Rand Paul and Dr. Fauci that was portrayed to be in a bunch of Facebook posts as like this like vicious argument where Rand Paul talked down to him. And I watched it, and it seemed to me like Dr. Fauci agreed with Dr. Paul, and then they just sort of it actually seemed kind of pointless. It's just Rand Paul saying, "Hey, you don't get to decide all the policy," and Dr. Fauci going like, "Yeah, I don't want to decide all the policy."
Yeah.
And that was it.
Yeah, I think that's kind of why
I was sold on blood sports.
Yeah, yeah, that's why I'm just kind of like tired of like a lot of this stuff is because it's all just here's a thing that happened, and now it's just an opportunity, a catalyst for each side to try to dunk on each other by bringing up things from the past and like making a thing that says, "Oh, look at this." Now it's Kirby saying this in a weird way. It's like I just don't care. I'm just getting fatigued. Plus, my school will be reopening at some point, presumably, and it was cut off like halfway through classes, and I'm sure, like most of the other students in my class, I have fallen behind on my studies. So lately, I've been trying to catch up with all of that, and it's been hard to try and keep up with the world and learn.
I feel you. Well, I'll let you get back to your studies then, bud.
All right, man.
Yeah, it's good seeing you.
Yep. Well,
all right, till next week.
Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.